is representing today. We got a lot of people from all over the place. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the fourth and final installment of our Self-Publishing 101 Masterclass series. So if you've been along for the whole ride, we really appreciate it. So at this point, we hope that you have all the basics down for publishing your first or fifth or sixth or 100th project. So as a little recap, so far we have covered 5 things to know before you publish, 5 ways to know if a publisher is right for you, 5 publishing tips and tricks to sell more books, and then today we're going to round it out with the 5 steps to publishing on Lulu. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and meet the dream team here behind today's experience. So, hey, I'm Chelsea. I'm the Brand Engagement Manager.
Marketing Associate. I'll be on chat today.
Hey, I'm Lauren. I'm the Social Media Manager, and I will also be in the chat with you guys today.
And I'm Paul. I'm the copywriter, and I'm going to help Chelsea with this little tour of our website.
Yes, you are, Paul. Thank you very much. Okay, so as Anna and Lauren said, they're going to be in the chat today. So what we're going to do this week is a bit different than the others. But previously, we just kind of put up a slide deck and talk through it. But today, we're going to see how the sausage is actually made. So we're going to be on Lulu's website, kind of getting into it and going through the process of creating a book. So what we're going to do right now is hop on over to our site. So I'm going to pull up our site here, do a little bit of screen sharing. So Anna and Lauren, let me know if anyone in the chat is saying they're unable to see the screen. So everybody should be seeing our Lulu homepage right now. And so what I want to do before we get started with making our book, I do want to highlight a couple other features of our website. So just in case you're unfamiliar, if you've never been to the Lulu website before, this is what it looks like when you get to the logged out homepage. So when you just land here. And so I just want to draw your attention to a few things. Yeah, look how pretty it is. Wow. Looks great. Look at all these options. Look at that guy reading that book with an airplane coming out of his head. It's great. So first, what I want to look at is if you're not ready to publish, we have a great pricing calculator, and you can get to it from the homepage or from the top nav. So Paul is going to go over there, and click right on that. So this pricing calculator is great, and if you're not ready yet to publish, then you can put in all of your configurations and your specs for your book to kind of get to the right price point or the perfect format for this project. So you can see up here, or up the top, it's got all the different project types that we've got. And then as you pick your project and scroll down, you can see the book size and page count, enter all of that in. And then this is a really great tool because it'll just kind of prompt you to select, as you can see, your interior color, paper type, perfect. So these things will auto-populate as you're going through. And let's see. So black and white, you can get your paper type. Binding type is down there at the bottom. And so what's great about this is that it'll show you the options that are available to you based on the specs that you put in. So you can go all the way down to our cover finish, which is glossy or matte. And then here it'll give you a really great little formula or the specs for your specific book. So you can see the size, the page count, interior color, binding type, paper type, and the cover that we all picked out. So, and then the requirements. So that's really nice. And then it'll give you these great templates. It gives you the cost per book. Paul, if you'll scroll down a little bit more. So you'll also, what I also really love about this tool is that not only does it give you the templates, but you can also put in the shipping estimates and get bulk discount prices. So, if you want to order, you want to order 100 copies, just slide it in right there or double it, triple it. Let's get more. So if you want 100 copies, then you can put your destination. Then it'll give you your estimated shipping cost and then add in any bulk discounts as well. So a really great tool for you to kind of take a look at to get a really accurate estimate of what you're going to be expected to pay or what you can expect to pay for your books and the shipping, even if you're doing bulk. So I think that's great. And even at the bottom, we have our retail revenue calculator. So if you want to, based on this one book that you're making and all these other pricing estimates that you're seeing, if you want to figure out what your list price will be across several different markets or countries that we service, then you can do that too. Paul won't make you kind of go into the list price stuff, but that's just a great tool that's available.
And we'll look at it a little more once we're actually putting the book together too.
Perfect. Okay, so that's a pricing calculator. I do want to bring your attention to one more page, and this is going to be our Hire a Pro page. So if you go back to the top, and I believe it's under, I think, resources.
Yep.
Yep, so top nav, Hire a Pro. And then from there, you can see this really nice curated list of resources for services ranging from, we have full service here. So if you're just at the beginning of your kind of writing journey and you need help developing, we've got you covered there. We've got writing tools, editors, formatters, cover design. And then at the bottom here, we've even got some, if you need reviews, community, and even educational resources. So no matter where you are in your publishing journey, I think there's something here to kind of help out with getting you to the next step or just fine tuning your craft. So this is another great page I wanted to point out. So you can get to that at lulu.com/partners or through the nav, as we just saw Paul do. And then the very last thing I'll mention before we kind of hop into it is going to be our sell on your site page. So this is a great page under our sell tab at the top nav. So this is great because if you're currently looking for a way to sell directly to your readers, this is the page for you. So we have our Shopify or our app for Shopify, which is our Lulu Express app for Shopify. And we also have our print API. So either of these will allow you to essentially turn your website or social media channels, in the case of Express or Lulu Express app, into your very own bookstore. So here you can find everything you need to research or explore these options. But I really just highly recommend anyone who is interested in selling direct, and if you're not, you should be, but selling direct should be a part of your marketing plan in some capacity. And these are two really great options that you can take advantage of to do that. They're also both free. For the Shopify option, you will have to get a Shopify subscription. I think right now they have a 90-day free trial for the different plans they have. So it's a great time to test that out. But if you have access to the back end of your website and you are, familiar with code or have a coder on staff for your business, then you can plug right into our API, and then you are integrated into our global print network. Orders come in through your website. They're automated to us for print and fulfillment, and it essentially acts as a white label service, and both of these can do that. And so just wanted to bring those 3 pages to your attention. And now we can get into the good part. So we're going to go ahead and get started with making a book. And as I said, we're going to try to stop for questions as often as possible. So you need to either sign in or register to get started with your book. If you do not have an account, you'll go to that register link right there. And then we'll just take a second to kind of look at that page so you can see what you're getting into. So no credit card information is needed. Signing up for a Lulu account is completely free. You'll just put in your information there. Select your preferred payment currency and your preferred language, password stuff, all that. And then we just need to make sure that you're not a robot. Not that we have anything against robots, but, just to be sure. So then you'll want to sign up for our newsletters and our emails. You can do that. And then, of course, agree to the terms and conditions and get started. But fortunately, Paul already has a Lulu account. So we're going to hop right into it. Everybody look away for a second while he puts in his password. Just kidding. Okay, awesome. All right. So now we're into it. So as we just did, Paul logged in. So you'll log into the account, and then you can go to the top nav and just click that create button, or go to the drop down to see what options that we have available. But it's just a great place to start. So as you can see on the drop down, we've got print books, photo books, comic books, magazines that you can all kind of get started with in the beginning. Oh, and yearbooks and ebooks. So we run the gamut of what you can create here. And when you select print books, here's what you're going to see. So we'll scroll down a little bit here to see. This page is going to show you all of our popular book formats. You're going to be able to get template bundles and things like that as well. But we've already got all that sorted out, so we can just dive right in and go ahead and click create our book.
All right, so thanks, Chelsea, for giving us a little look at the site here. And now I'm going to take over and kind of walk you all through the process of actually creating a book. So I will say I've already prepared my files, and I'll touch on some of the resources we have to help you out with that at the end of this process. But so we're just going to jump right into the actually uploading and publishing. So let's do a US Trade, a 6x9 book. So I'll click there. And that brings you into this screen where you have all of the steps in the design process to create your book. And we'll start, this first page is going to look a little bit like that calculator where you pick your product type. And what this does is it helps narrow down the options we provide because, for example, comic books use a very special paper that's designed just for comics. So when you select that, we know that you're making a comic book, and we don't show you all of the paper types you don't want to use. Likewise, if you pick photo book, we're going to show you the highest quality ink and paper options to help make sure that you create the photo book you're looking for. You won't ever have that problem again where you accidentally picked low quality paper for a photo book and then you got a book printed and the pages are all wavy and bleed through and stuff like that. So by narrowing it down right at the beginning, we help make sure that you get the book you want created. And then of course, under print book, that actually is going to give you every single option other than a couple of very specific ones like the photo book paper or the comic book paper I mentioned. But it's going to give you, like, I think 99% of the options you have available. So you can always kind of customize your book if you need to under that print book one. We'll scroll down a little bit here. The first thing we do after we pick our product type is a goal. So what we do here is we're helping you decide how many steps in this process you need to take. If you're creating a book that you're just going to use us to print and have shipped directly to you, say you want to make a memory book for your family and you're going to give it as a gift and you're only ever going to order 10 copies of it. You just need us to print your book. And when you select print your book, you'll notice, as I scroll back up, these options are all locked because just to print a book, you don't need to do any of these things. All you need to do is tell us you're printing a book and then upload your files. So we streamline the process to make it really easy for our customers that just need to get some books printed. On the other hand, if you're publishing, you want to sell on our site, you want to sell through our distribution network, you pick the publish your book option, and you can do one or the other. And that will go through a much richer process where you'll see these are all unlocked. The review one is still locked, but we'll get to that in a second. These other options are all unlocked now, and you'll be able to go through and actually put in all of the metadata and information we need to publish and sell your book. Last part of this first step here, we got to put some details in. So we'll just call this test book. We'll select the language for the book. Now this language doesn't define how it's written on the inside of the book. That's all going to be built based on your file. This is the language that we put in the metadata. So when you send your book through distribution or you put it on our store, we provide this information to readers. So you want to make sure if you've written your book in English and the file is in English, you select English. Likewise for any other language. And then a bookstore category, which is optional. This is done through the Lulu bookstore, so you're telling us how to categorize it. I'm just going to pick fiction general here. And we'll touch on some more in-depth categorization in just a moment. On to the next step, we're going to fill some copyright information. So when you're publishing a book, there are two pieces or two steps in this process where you add a lot of metadata. This is information about the information, literally what metadata is. In the case of a book, it means information about your book. So whenever you publish, you always have the actual book itself, be it an ebook or a physical book that you're having printed and shipped. And then you have the metadata, which is the stuff that you see on the page where you buy it, such as the description, the title, the author, the ISBN, the copyright year. All of that is encompassed by this idea of metadata. And we grab that information in two different steps, on this copyright step and also the details step a little later. So let's get into adding some of that metadata for the copyright. So here you'll see it populated that title I created on the first step. I want to note very importantly here, the title I entered on the first step is your project title. That title on the first step exists in Lulu only. That can be whatever you want it to be. You could title your book as a project on Lulu, My First Book. What you enter right here on the copyright step, this needs to be the title that appears on the cover of your book, on the copyright page of your book. This is actually the name of your book. So let's say, since I'm using Alice in Wonderland as my book, that's what I want to put here. Well, I guess it's actually Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but this is good enough. Because that's actually the title of my book. Whereas test book is the title that will show up in my project list. And so you can use those two separate things to differentiate. For example, if you're publishing multiple versions of your book, say a paperback and a hardcover and a full color and a black and white, that first title, you can use that to differentiate them. So when you're looking at your project list, you see which one is which quickly. Now, all of the information is listed on your project list as well. But by changing the title, it makes it really quick and easy to not only differentiate, but then you can search using the search function and find, test book black and white will pull that version up very quickly. Subtitles optional. I'm not going to put anything in there. The edition is also optional. This is generally used for academic books, so we're just going to skip that one. Same thing with the edition statement. Those are just some optional things for generally used by academic authors. Now for the contributors, we're going to need to add at least one author. So I'm going to put myself in there as, let's call me an editor, since I didn't write Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We'll also add Lewis Carroll since he did. And there we go. And so these, maybe let's switch them so that he comes first since he's the author and I'm the editor. Or you know what, I guess I didn't really edit it. I compiled it, I guess. Let's say I adapted it. I don't know. Again, you have a ton of options here. So, you can look through these and figure out which one you think is most useful. And then on to this next step. Oh, I should mention, we mentioned it here as well. You can add, I think, as many contributors as you want here. I'm sure we cap it at some point. But most retailers will only display up to 5 contributors. And again, this is mostly for academics. But if you've got a lot of authors, or say you've written, you've edited a short story collection with like 30 different authors and short stories, you have to kind of be conscious of how they're going to appear on retail pages when you're adding these authors here. Next step, we're going to apply the copyright information. So we do normal all rights reserved copyright, which is what I would advise for 99% of authors. If it's your book and you own the rights to it, you wrote it, definitely add this here. This does not register the book with the US Copyright Office. That is something that you're responsible for doing yourself. All we're doing is we're marking down in our data and our database that you have said to us, I wrote this in this year. That's useful, that's important, but if you ever have any concern that someone may use your content illegally, you should make sure that you have it registered with the Copyright Office. That makes it much easier to retain the claim to your rights. But under all copyright laws, as soon as you have created a piece of intellectual work, it is yours. So this is just that layer to make sure that we are acknowledging that with you. We also allow for Creative Commons copyrights for things that are licensed to be used. So if you've written like a manual or textbook that you more than happily will allow people to pull pieces of and use in their own work, use that. Or say public domain, which is actually what I'm doing today, is writing publishing a public domain book, but we're not going to fully publish it to the store, so we're not going to worry too much about it. But if I was actually going to publish this version of Alice in Wonderland, I would list it as a public domain work. And the last step here is getting an ISBN. So if I select this use one I own, I enter all of the information that I entered when I bought the ISBN, and I assign it. I definitely advise that for authors that are going to publish more than one book. That way your ISBNs will be sequential, they'll be under your own name, and they're just not that expensive to buy like a batch of 10 of them that I think it's pretty worthwhile. But, if you're a first-time author, or, you just aren't going to publish that many books, or even if you just don't worry too much about it, you can use one for free. Lulu buys a whole bunch of them and we make them available to you freely. Just click that Get an ISBN button. You'll notice we reserve it for you for 6 months. Oops, screen updated there. What that means is that if you assign an ISBN, as I just did, here's my ISBN number. Oh, God, I said ISBN number. We assign this to the book that you've just created, so that number is mine for 6 months. If I don't publish within that 6 months, we're going to notify you and we're going to say, hey, you didn't publish this book. We're taking that number back so someone else can use it. Of course, you can always go back in and reassign another new one if you need to at that point. But we just want to make sure that we had a problem in our old system where people would sit on these ISBNs for years and years and years, and that left thousands of ISBNs just unused. So we want to make sure everyone has access to these and can use them, so we reserve them for a period of time. That said, once you've clicked the publish button, that ISBN is 100% yours forever. It will never fall off. Even if you retire the book, it's still assigned to the metadata that will always exist out there for the book that you published. That ISBN is yours. Right here, you can download the barcode to add to your cover. or you can remove it if you did this by mistake. All right, let's get to the fun part. This is
Hey, Paul, really quick. I'm just going to, a couple questions came up. So for Rick Ryan asked, how long does it take to get an ISBN? So as you saw, if you take a Lulu one, or if you choose to use one of the ones we have, then it's immediate. Paul, do you know how long if you buy your own? I mean, is that also immediate? I'm not sure
So,
that process.
I don't have the exact answer for you. I believe it varies. I think that there is probably a processing time, because if you go through a site like Bowker in the US that would assign them, you pay them to buy the ISBNs. They probably have to do some processing of your information, make sure that you provided, like, if you typed in your home address and it was invalid, like you mistyped a zip code or something, they would need to validate that and get it checked and make sure that it's correct. I know when we used to sell them years ago, it took about 2 weeks of validating and then sending you the information and make sure everything was right. So I would say you want to allow a little bit of time to make sure the company you bought the ISBN from can validate your information and assign them to you. I could see it being within a matter of days, but I would say give yourself a few weeks anyway, just to be safe.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Paul. And so Bowker is the biggest provider in the U.S., so that's who I would look to get their timeline, or kind of get the basics for the way that would go if you order through them or another provider. One other thing I want to point out on this page is that you can see, as Paul chose a free Lulu ISBN, under the number it gives you, or right above the download barcode button, it says imprintlulu.com. So if you are, for a lot of people, for the majority of our authors, that's, kind of irrelevant. It doesn't matter too much. However, if you are interested in establishing your own imprint, or if you want the metadata to point to your own publishing company or your own publishing imprint, you're going to want to buy your own and bring it to us, so that you can have that metadata reflect whatever the publishing name that you want, or whatever imprint you'd like to share there. And one other question I'll just answer right now. So Andre asked, in case if I use public domain content, will that be okay? So yes, public domain is, for the public, that's fine to use. Again, I don't think, and Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but can you sell public domain content, or can you just print it?
So it's a gray area.
Okay, Google it.
If through us, if you create something public domain and you claim a copyright on it and we catch you, we will pull it down. That you cannot do. If you list it as public domain and say then it becomes a very gray area about what you're doing with the funds from it and things like that. So be very careful with it. I encourage most folks to not try and resell public domain works. But yeah, Google it, get some information. If you can, check with a lawyer, a copyright lawyer.
Yeah. So yeah, just to be clear, Paul's not trying to make any profit off of Alice in Wonderland, and he is not the author. He's just the updater, or whatever you put yourself.
Yeah, it's my favorite example book to use, so we're just going to use it as we kind of go through here to get this set up.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions, or am I ready to move on?
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right. Awesome. So we're into the design step here. So what I'm going to do now is upload my interior file. So I click that. Here I've got my files on my desktop. So I grab that one. It's going through a little process. I note, because I went to this step and then left it, it's showing this little warning message. This is an annoying one that I've actually been bugging our developers to fix, so that it will go away once you've uploaded a file. But if you guys see this, this is not one to worry about. It's kind of just an annoying thing that, like I said, I've been complaining about for a week or so now, and I think we'll get it fixed eventually. But all this is telling you is that you went to this step, this design step, and then left without uploading a file. Nothing more. All right, so my book was successfully uploaded. Here is the file title showing here. This is always important to look at. I make sure to title my files specifically to the size and things like that. Just very helpful, so you know what's going on in there. If you happen to upload the wrong file here, say it was a different size than what you're planning on doing today, you can always replace it. No big deal. It is very important too to note, and you'll see here I did 6x9, the size of the file you've uploaded, because when we go to the next step, you'll notice that this option here to change your book size and page count are locked. Those two features are pulled directly from the file I've uploaded. So if you upload a file it will only let you publish a book at the page size that will work for that file. There are a couple of page sizes that are within variance of each other, and you'll have to select one or the other here. But the vast majority of our options, it will force you into the size based on the file you've uploaded. So it's very, very important that you use one of our templates when you're creating your file, or at the very least size it correctly to the page, the book size you want to print. All right, moving on, we're going to pick an interior color. I'll just go plain old black and white. Let's do cream paper, and we'll do a paperback. And then the matte cover, because I think matte looks awesome. All right, and so that gives us our print cost, and we will go down to the next step where we have our cover. So right here you have two options. You can use this cover creator we offer that has a few options to enter some information, title, subtitle, contributors on the spine and cover, back cover description. We have 4 templates you can pick from, and you'll notice these have some graphics showing on them, and then you'll upload the graphic that will show up there. And once you do, if I had uploaded a graphic, you'd see it in this white space. I know for a lot of people who have used Lulu, you look at this and it's fairly mediocre. So I'm just going to say to the folks that happen to be on this webinar and let you all know, we are working on a much, much better cover creator. The one that you see on this site right now is kind of a stopgap while we get our site set up for this better one. But I recently looked at some of the mock-ups for this new one. It's going to be very nice, very simple. I would say if you used our old cover creator and you liked it, you will very much like this new one. So the other option you have for covers is to upload your own. When you can, oops, sorry, jumped down a little there on you. When you can, I advise always having your own cover created. If you're just doing a book, like I said, for like a single print run of a few books to give to friends and family, sure, use our cover creator because, you know, it's not a big deal. But if you're trying to sell your book, you want a really nice, professionally designed cover. And that means either, you know, having some graphic design skills yourself and doing it yourself, or hiring a cover designer. You'll see here too, we provide a template. The nice part about this template is the spine is sized to the page count. So you'll notice my book is 84 pages. And then if you look down here, the dimensions are showing specific to that page count. So this template will have the spine preset. That's really helpful if you're trying to build a cover yourself, to have that kind of showing and available to you so you know that you can kind of set things up. Luckily, I've already done that. Got this cover right here, so we'll upload it. And our system is taking a look to make sure that it works. Just give it a second, and bam, it was happy, which thank goodness, because I checked them all earlier and it was working. So last part here, we've got this thing, which is like one of my favorite parts of our creation process now, is this preview tool. So this is a live preview of the book based on the files I have uploaded. We've got these trim lines and margins and folds and whatnot that you can turn on and off. These are great because it shows you some of the things that are going to get done in the printing and trimming process. Particularly keep an eye on that bleed, this magenta one here. That is going to get trimmed away. So that is content that will get trimmed off when we finalize the size of your book. Here you can see this awesome cover I created. I don't know if anybody here reads our Lulu blog, but this is one I made as part of a Canva trial to use Canva to create a book cover. You will notice the spine text is off. It's very close to that line. I actually noticed that when I was setting this up earlier today, and I just didn't bother to fix it because I'm not actually buying this book. But if I was, this is what makes this so awesome, is I just happened to set the spine text a couple of points too far to the right. I need to go back into that file and move that. I need to go back in and fully center this text, or it very likely will fold over on the edge of the spine and look terrible. That's what makes this preview tool so awesome, is you can catch something that is so minuscule you might have missed it in the file prep, but you'll see it right here, and we'll let you know to do that so that you don't waste time and money ordering a proof copy only to find out that it, you know, isn't going to look good. Another thing to note is that this set of cards here is running into this safety margin a little bit. I wouldn't worry about this. We won't trim that far onto the cover, but that's always good to know where your margins are. And I scroll down a little bit more and we can flip through the book and see the pages along with those margins lines. And there it is. Nice little preview of our book. And then last thing here you can do is download your print ready files. This is always nice. Now, it's worth noting that the only thing we did to these files was they were resized for full bleed. So I uploaded files at exactly 6" by 9". The LULU system added a 1/4 inch to 6 1/4 by 9 1/4 to allow for this magenta bleed line that has to get trimmed off. I didn't bother adding that to my file because it's just white. There's no image that runs over to the edges. But if you have full bleed imagery, one, if I'm saying things like full bleed imagery and you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it, get into it, learn a little bit about it. For most novels, that's not a big deal. But if you do photo books or anything with graphics, you really got to know a lot about bleed and understand that. And that's one of the main things that you're going to see in the print ready files that wouldn't necessarily be in your uploaded file. And do we have any questions on this one before I jump to that next step?
No, I think that we're good to go.
Awesome. That means I'm doing such a good job of explaining it.
That's exactly what that means.
All right. So this detail step is the last piece of metadata we're going to need to pull in. We're going to pair this with the stuff we learned in the copyright step to build the metadata for your book. So here we're going to do a description. Notice it's counting the words over here on the right. We require 50 characters. I'm sorry, it's counting the characters, not the words. We require 50 characters to populate a description, so that's why I kept typing until we got past that 50 character count. On Lulu, we don't have it's not a big issue, but if you distribute your book, if you send it to like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, folks like that, they have a minimum of 50 characters. So you always want to make sure you add it up to that 50 character count. And I would even say go longer. Descriptions are super important. They're very vital to selling your book. I've written a lot about this. We've done videos. We've talked about this kind of stuff. So, kind of get an understanding of what's important in a description and make it as detailed as it needs to be. Next couple steps are, again, the contributor notes and table of contents. These are two things that are pretty much reserved for academics, again, much like the edition statements information on the copyright step. As a regular author, you're not going to really have to worry about this, but it's just some information. And we provide a few notes right in this block before you start typing about what they are. But the vast majority of folks won't need those. So I'm just going to skip over that. And we're on to categories and keywords. So you'll see the category I selected for Lulu up here. Next, we have BISAC categories. BISAC is really important. It is the standard categorization system used by booksellers all over the world. So what we're doing for you here is we're giving you the option to create BISAC categories so that you can get your book really narrowed down and sortable so that when someone is looking for a specific kind of book, they can easily find it. So let's say this is Alice in Wonderland. It's classic fiction. So I'm just going to put in classic. And there we go, classic fiction. So you see the top level fiction is on the left and then the / classics. I'll select that as a category, and bam, I've applied a BISAC category. So you can apply up to 3, and we very, very heavily recommend you do so. I also recommend that before you get to this step and you just start picking them from these lists that we create, that you go to BISAC's website, you do some research, you try to look at some other books in your genre and see what categories they use. It's perfectly fine to copy them because all you're trying to do is categorize yourself within a genre. This one is a little bit more information than we can really get into today, but it is important to look at and figure out exactly which ones you want to be using, pick 3 that kind of complement each other, and give as much detail as possible. And then finally, excuse me, some search keywords. So we'll just do Alice, Wonderland, Lewis Carroll. Some keywords. It's always good to add as many of these as you can too. You see we allow up to 50, so that's great. I would say at least 5 to 10 is ideal. You just want some search terms. When you search on the Lulu bookstore, we do most of our search function through title and author searches, but these will help. So if you go and search Lewis Carroll, it'll help populate your book, or it would help populate this book because I have him listed as both the author and a keyword. It's just sort of helpful for getting it up there. And it's also notable that these get passed to retailers as well. So those will help with your retail listing. It should be noted that retailers, particularly Amazon, will apply whatever their own keywords they want based on looking at your file. So it's not 100% guaranteed they'll take and use these, but it does help. And last piece of the detailed information we need is your audience. This one lets you define your audience. This is kind of like a secondary keyword. So we're going to call this, I think, Alice in Wonderland's young adult, right? That makes sense. So we'll put that in there for a teenage audience. And that's just another thing that helps categorize and sort your book. And then it's also very important so that we can list explicit content. And we obviously don't have to do that for this book, but this gives you some ways to list adult content warnings. Very important for sorting because people don't want to find things that are adult specific when they're searching. And honestly, you don't really want people to find them if it's adult specific. You want to kind of keep those things separated so you can focus in on your audience. And here is the last important step we need is to set up your pricing and your payees. So you'll see here we have two ways for you to set your price. The first one that we default to is a revenue goal. So let's say I wanted to make $1 for every book I sell. I enter $1 here, and our system pre-makes a price. So this is exactly the price that you would have in US, euros, Australian dollars, British pounds, and Canadian dollars. At that price, it will sell and earn you $1 for every sale in each of those currencies. And then if you scroll down, you see the breakdown. So you'll notice on Lulu, you actually make significantly more for each sale. It's because when you enter a revenue goal, it sets it to the channel, the either Lulu's bookstore or distribution, as a minimum for each of those channels. And you'll notice here that the euro one is actually 89 cents and the pounds is 81 cents. That has to do with conversion rates and some accounting things that I don't know enough about. It's a little tricky to kind of zero it in on each of those. And because I am using US dollars as my primary currency, when I set a revenue goal, it gives me a revenue, it gives me that revenue goal for US, and then it converts it to the other ones. So it's a little tricky there, but I really like the revenue goal feature because it gives you a way to, even if you don't set your price by the goal, it gives you a way to see how much a book would have to cost to a buyer for you to make a certain amount. And it's always notable to see the distribution fees that are in here. That's the reason you make more when you sell on Lulu versus a retailer, is because the retailers are sucking out some fees. So yeah, that's just always important to note. The other option is to set it to a fixed list price, and that's where I actually control the price directly. So let's say I want it to be $9.99 in US and $9.99 in pounds, and I'll just leave the other ones. But, you know, and this is the one that most people will probably use because it's nice to have a nice, you know, $1.99 price point, kind of more common for what people will see on web stores and things like that. And then again, you get your breakdown of how much you'll make on each channel. And that's the information that we have for those. The other thing to note is that if you do an ebook, there'll be a third option where you can list it for free. All right, and last thing we need to do here is set a payee. So I've got this one I preset for myself here. Quickly, we'll look at the adding a new payee involves adding a lot of information. We need to know who you are, how you want to be paid by check or PayPal, and you'll note the minimums here that we list. Again, if you're new to the selling books world, get into our knowledge base and our blog and read some of the information we have about this. There's a lot of it that goes into it here. We list a little bit here, but it's really good to kind of get deep into that and know what you're talking about. One thing to note that I had to ask one of our accountants the other day about this. This tax ID number is synonymous with a social security number in the US. Again, it was one of those little things where they put the wrong piece of information there under tax ID, but it should say tax ID or SSN. So yeah, if you're setting this up and you see that and you're like, where do I put my social? It's right there. We also give you the option to download our a zip file of tax forms. And so if you are selling and you don't apply a tax form, sales in the US, we have to take the applicable taxes based on the state that you sell, that the book ships to, or based on the state that we are printing in. So to be safe, we take out the maximum amount of taxes that we can. You'll get a lot of that back, but if you want to just avoid all of that, fill out a tax form, tell us that you're a reseller or that you're a whatever it is, a self-employed or is a small business. There's all kinds of different ways you can set it up. And again, I'm not a tax lawyer, so don't take any of this as gospel. Just always do your own research on these. We just give you access to those forms that you would need to fill out. They're very simple. Drop them up in here once you know exactly how you want to declare your income. And that will set it up so that you don't get any withholdings based on laws requiring tax withholdings. All right, so we're going to not add that extra pay. We'll just have myself. But let's say I did have, like, I wanted to give Lewis Carroll a share of the book. I would add him as a payee, or maybe some foundation that I wanted to donate some of this money from this book. I could add that as a payee as well, and then I would set up a share split based on percentages, so that I could take 20% as the editor and the author would get 80%, or however we want to set that up. You can work on that there. Once your payees are made, you can always remove and edit them in here as well.
Yeah, and Paul, I just want to, right before you move on, just highlight what you said about setting up a payee. So one great thing about Lulu, and one thing we see a lot of people take advantage of, is setting up other organizations or nonprofits, or if you're creating a project to raise awareness or raise money for a cause, then Lulu makes it really easy for you to set up the organization or group as a payee, and then the revenue from your sales will go directly to them. So it's a really nice way to really champion any causes that are important to you.
Yeah, we give the option to set an organization here. And then most organizations will want to get paid by check, so they can just kind of track that paper trail, but we make that fairly easy as well. Just check the box, make sure the information is good for the shipping address, so we can actually send them the check.
Yes, that's important, right?
And most businesses and nonprofits and things like that, if you ask for the payee information that you want to give to make sure that they don't have any tax problems, they're always happy to get donations. So it's not hard to get that tax information from them that you need to set this up. All right. Do we have any final questions before I move on to the review?
No, I think that we're okay to move on.
Awesome. All right. So last step. Note that this one, the review had been showing a lock earlier. As I moved through the process, we get a little check mark for each one of these that are done. If I go back, I'll just see if I can break this one here. Let's go back and remove this payee. Oh, I didn't uncheck it. I actually guess I don't really need to have a payee to get it started. All right, I'm going to stop trying to mess with it and just move forward. If you were to go back and say, delete a piece of information that was required, like your buy set category, this would uncheck and you would not be able to review. You wouldn't be able to move on to the review step. And you would see at the end of this pricing step, or at the end of the other steps, a note that says, a piece of information needs to be finished, and you go up here and you look and you can see which step you're missing information on. Note that contrary to the way Lulu used to work, you can just bounce around in these steps whenever you want, no problem. I go to this review and I've got buttons to jump me back to each step to fix information. If I see something like, let's say I accidentally entered 2030 as the copyright year, well, I can't copyright something in the future, so jump right back and edit that. And so as you look at these things, check your print ready files and source files if you need to grab them again. It's very notable that we don't store files outside of projects anymore. So this is the way to go grab your files for a book if you need to just get those files downloaded for some reason. If your computer crashes and you lost them, you can always grab them right here. So let's confirm each step. I click that little box to say, yep, and my copyright's good. And all of these details look good. Obviously, I went a little thin on the details here, but this is just an example. Happy with that pricing info. And it's thinking. It's thinking. It always takes a second here. Bam.
It's like, man, did Paul Hobday really write Alice?
Man, if only our algorithms were that smart, right? So here we see the retail options set up for distribution. To send a book through our distribution process, you need to proof it. That means literally physically getting a proof shipped to you and looking at it. And then once you've done that, there'll be an option in your account to check it off and say, yes, I approve of this. It's one of the reasons I really stress using that preview tool in the design step before you get here to minimize any errors in proofing. But still, this is a hugely important step. I don't know why you wouldn't want to look at a copy of the book you just created before you start selling it to people, but we force you to because it's super important. So for distribution, when you've got that checked, you do that here. And then you will see the access on the Lulu bookstore. So it defaults to private access. Private access means it can only be accessed and purchased through your account from your project page. Direct access makes it available on the bookstore, but only from a URL that you will have access to. So you can share that URL with people and they will only be able to find the book by following it. And then General just puts it up on our bookstore. And you'll notice when I select either of those two, I have a Publish to Lulu button. So as soon as I click the order proof copy, it adds a copy of the book to my cart and I order it. That's what starts the distribution process. To publish the book to Lulu, you need to click the button under one of these two. So right now, this book is done as a private access book. It's in my cart, or it's in my account, ready to go to be bought. It isn't published to Lulu yet. You can't find it on the bookstore. So I'm actually going to do that right now. I'm going to publish it. And again, it's thinking, it's doing its thing.
And Paul, while we're waiting for that to go ahead and publish, one of the questions came in about our distribution channels. So when we talk about global distribution, what we're talking about here is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Ingram. And for ebooks, we have a pretty long list as well. So it includes like iBooks, Kobo, things like that. And so one thing to note that you may have seen when Paul was creating this book is that we have specific formats and sizes that are distribution eligible. And so those are going to be denoted by, I think, like a green little world thing. So it'll tell you if you hover over the icon under, oh, there we go. So you'll see the green little book with the, maybe it's a globe, could just be a ball.
It's a globe, or it's supposed to be a globe.
So if you see that, then that means you are good to go and you can enroll, and your book is eligible to be in our global distribution program. So it's free to enroll in that as long as your book is eligible. You'll notice that some are not. So the coil bound is not, but you can still sell that through our bookstore or through your own website. Another thing to note there is if you enroll in global distribution, our partners accept our projects for global distribution in batches. So I think that 4 to 6 weeks is sort of the timeline we give to folks. So it's not an overnight process. So if you need it done quicker than that, you're more than welcome to go outside our platform and upload your books directly to, whatever channel you're trying to get into. But if you want it all in one place, nicely kind of kept together, then you can do it all through Lulu. It'll take a couple weeks to get up there. It's just one thing I want to note. And also when your sales come in, they will be denoted by the channel that they're sold from. So you'll see what percentage you're selling through lulu.com. You'll see the percentage through Amazon, through Ingram, and through Barnes & Noble as well. And it's the same for ebooks. So it's a really nice way to kind of keep everything in one place and see which sales channels are most advantageous for you.
Yep, that's all accurate. And I do believe you're right with the 4 to 6 week time frame for approval. That's what I've heard as well. So
perfect.
Okay, one last thing I'm going to show before I look at what this book looks like on our store is this little question mark down here in the corner. This gives you direct access to our knowledge base, and it actually adds a couple of preloads a couple of articles here pertaining to the step that you're on. So this will be different based on the step that you're on. It's also got how-to guides that will show you information, again, pertaining to the step that you're on. And we do announcements here. So you might notice a little notification dot occasionally in this bottom corner if we've got an announcement. So we'll just show as we add features and we update things, you'll see those here as well. So that's a very cool little option that you have to check things out. All right, so I'm gonna go right back up to the top and I'm gonna go to my projects. And here we see my book. It is complete, it's in direct access. It is waiting for me to order a proof copy to approve. But what I want to do is look at it in the bookstore. So I'm going to click this little button here. And bam, there it is. There is the book on the bookstore. All the information I entered. Here's all that metadata I was talking about. Here's the cover, add to cart. I can share it. All kinds of cool stuff. I'm also going to go back over here and you see you have the option to revise, retire, or add to cart. As soon as we're done with this, I'm going to retire this one. Obviously, it's a public access book and it shouldn't be in direct access. It shouldn't be for sale at all. So I don't want anybody buying this. And in case anybody really quickly snapped that URL while I was on the store screen, I'm going to delete this one promptly so it goes away. But once you retire something, it goes into an inactive status. We get a little information here. And then drafts can always be deleted as well.
So unfortunately for me, and I don't know if anyone else is seeing this, but I am frozen on the project's overview page. But what Paul was just showing is that if you go to the direct access little thing right there on the right-hand side of your projects list, and you click on that little, I don't know, 3-dot button thing, that it'll take you to the listing in the bookstore. And so Paul, for a direct access book, okay, looks like it
opened in a new tab. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. There we go. So yeah, so you can see this is what the listing looks like in the store. And so for Paul, for a direct access book, is this where you grab the URL just at the top?
Yeah, my screen share isn't showing the URL bar, but yes, you would just copy that URL from the top. Yes, and so I believe there isn't, I'm going to go back to my projects now. There isn't a button right here to copy the URL right now, or it would be right next to this little 3-point button here. I don't know, that's a feature that will be added. I don't believe I know where in the pipeline that is, but we do have so we'll add, a little quick click button to just copy to your clipboard right here too.
Perfect. Yeah. And
Okay,
so, you know what? Oh, sorry, Paul.
I was going to say, I wanted to just talk real quickly. I know we're getting close to the end of it. I just want to show one more resource. Back on our homepage, I'm going to go into Resources and Publishing Toolkit. This page has guides. So I cannot recommend enough this book creation guide. Not only because I wrote it, but because I worked for a long time with our print team and our graphics design team to put together something that gives you a ton of information about creating your files so that you can create a PDF file that will work perfectly with our site. So I can't stress enough how important that book is. And also, if you see something in there that's confusing or doesn't make sense, reach out to us, reach out to our support team or something like that and tell us, and they'll tell me and we'll update it. It's not set in stone, it's a living document, but it's very important that you understand the logistics of creating your file correctly so that it can be printed well. And the last thing we want is for you to print a book that you're not happy with. So that's why we put so much time and energy into making sure that this guide is available for you. It's rich with information, and it tries to give you all of the the high level and important details you need to get your book made.
Yeah, so I'll just echo that. All those formatting guides are amazing. As you saw, we also have templates available. So earlier when we were showing we also have marketing guides, and this is great. The publishing toolkit's amazing. I'm sorry, Paul, you were probably going to go into that. Did I cut you off?
Nope. I was looking for this drop down that has our templates. But
yes.
It lives on a whole bunch of different pages, and it gives you a bundle with a Word doc, PDF, InDesign file, sized, a cover for all of those as well, and some guidance on how to use them. It's not as in-depth as the book creation guide. It's more technical specs, but it does have some more information in there to help you prepare your book.
Yes. So that's amazing that you can go ahead and download these templates or the bundles to go ahead and get started. I did see earlier, and this probably was answered by our wonderful people on the chat and comments right now, but I saw a question about uploading PDFs or if you need a PDF to upload. So on our platform, you'll need 2 PDFs to create your book, or as you saw Paul go through, you can create a cover on our site, and that tool will become more robust in the coming weeks and months. But for right now, if you want to get started or if you want to create your own cover, you will need a PDF interior file and a PDF of the cover file. So we have, the book creation guide. We have all these wonderful guides online. We also have in our toolkit, how to create a PDF from Microsoft Word. I believe we have one from Adobe as well. So we have a lot of resources to help you get that PDF format that we're looking for. But that is the only way that you can upload your book to our platform, is if you have a PDF of the interior file and of the cover file. So if you are working with someone that's going to help with your formatting or your cover file, just make sure they know that the end product needs to be a PDF.
Yeah, and I've written extensively for a variety of different softwares on our blog about details of how to go about creating a PDF from things like Word and Google Docs and InDesign and Affinity Publisher. So there's lots of information out there. There's also plenty of folks that have done, independent of Lulu, that have made YouTube videos or other walkthroughs. It can be tricky because every file is unique, and you may have elements in your file that are, causing a problem that no one's really speaking to directly. So there can be some hangups, but there are just so many resources out there to help you get that sorted out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the great things about the Carol said this sounds confusing and frightening. It's not. It's exciting and fun, but there's a lot of work involved. So, that's one of the things that Paul was talking about. So we have other resources available. Obviously, we've shown you on our website how you can get to this information, but a quick Google search, you can learn so much. And keeping you kind of on the Lulu platform, Paul writes a great blog that addresses a lot of these questions that you guys have had. We also have a YouTube channel called Lulu University. where we kind of go through some of the commonly asked questions, the things that we think will be most helpful to you in your publishing journey. As an aside, we also upload all of our webinars there. So if this is either your first or last installment of this series that we're in right now, you can always go to our YouTube channel, just search Lulu, Lulu University or Lulu Enterprise, and you'll be able to find all of our videos there, as well as past webinars that we've done. That should help you kind of get to that point where you're ready to publish. And then we have things that go, over marketing and cover design and formatting. Everything that we feel like may be helpful to you is stuff that we've put up there. So Paul or Lauren and Anna, are there any questions that we need to answer that we may have missed up to this point?
Chat and the comments below.
You guys are crushing it. It's amazing. All right. So a couple things to keep in mind. As I said, we will be sending out a recording of this video. So if you came in late or if you had to leave early, you're not hearing this right now, but you'll get the recording once it's up and available. And also, I wanted to remind everybody to keep an eye out. We'll be sending out a survey, I think later this week, that will just kind of get your feedback. We'd love to hear more from you of what you thought about this series. This is the first webinar series we've done. And so we just thank all of you so much for joining us. I know there's a few of you who have been along for the whole entire ride, and some who have had to kind of catch it after the live recording or after the live broadcast in the recorded format. And so we so appreciate that you guys tuned in and listened. We hope this information was helpful, and we'd love to hear what you'd like to see next. And any other suggestions or feedback that you have. So definitely keep an eye out for our follow-up survey that'll be coming in the next few days. Included in that email will be a discount code. So anyone who joined the webinar or signed up and is on that email list, you will get our little coupon code for our masterclass series. So be sure to open it up and see all of that good stuff. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that we need to, let's see, anything else we want to address? I don't know, Paul, you got anything?
So I was just scrolling through some of the questions, and I did see a couple about Quark. It's one that I haven't really worked with, so I can look into it again. I believe that historically there have been some concerns with the way that PDFs output, not for us specifically, but just in general for printing with those kinds of PDFs. So I would have to go back and look into it again, but I do see some questions regarding that. So that's one that I'm going to add to my list of things to look at. So I would say, follow our blog and our YouTube channel. And as we learn more about that, if we can determine that there is a good way to use that for creating print-ready PDFs, we'll put some information about how to use it up there.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I will say also, for any questions, let's see, I'll really quick kind of move back to our slide deck and just end on this question slide. So if you do have any questions, you can reach us at webinars it's with an S, right? I say that every time, but
yes.
Yes, so webinars with an S at lulu.com. You can also follow us on social media at Lulu, DOTCOM, our YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on LinkedIn a bit here and there. So please, feel free to follow us to get the most up-to-date information about what we have going on and check out new cool projects that we have that we are featuring there. As I mentioned, lulu.com/blog is a great resource. Paul keeps that really updated with some wonderful content that ranges from, like I said, anything we feel like would be helpful in your publishing journey. And this includes reviews of softwares and writing platforms. So it's a great way to kind of stay on top of your game. And yeah, so I think there's some great ways to follow us. And we're coming down to the end of it. So I think we'll end class a bit early. I'll give you guys a minute and a half. If no one has any other questions for us, then I'll let you go on to what we hope is a wonderful day. So thank you again to everybody. I just want to give a big shout out to Paul, Anna, and Lauren, who have done such a fantastic job putting this together. Huge shout out to Paul. It's a bit nerve-wracking to go through, the website live, because I feel like that is just asking for something to break or fall apart. Nothing did. So that was a huge success. So thank you so much, Paul. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next one. So I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks so much for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Bye. All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Thanks again for joining us, and we will be underway immediately.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Fun with Formatting. So quickly, I just wanted to address a few housekeeping items. First, we will be providing the recording of this webinar and the slide deck in an email to everyone that's registered after we're done. And also, all of our webinars live on our YouTube channel, so never fear, you will get it. Second, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the box labeled questions. We will be answering questions at the end. Also, if we don't get to your question, we will be posting a blog post with all of the questions and answers. So don't worry about that either. And last, we always want to hear your feedback. And if you have any ideas for future webinar content, that's kind of how we decided this topic for the webinar. So please email us at webinar@lulu.com. Webinar. Okay. Webinar@lulu.com. We'll put the email on the last slide, so you'll be fine. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us. Today we're going to discuss best practices and steps for formatting your project for bookstore quality, specifically using Microsoft Word. And we wanted to focus on Word because it's the most popular writing software in the world, and most of the books on Lulu are created with Word. Plus, you know, it's an incredible writing tool. You can track changes, you can add comments, and it doesn't require the internet to use it. And of course, it allows you to transform your manuscript into a print-ready PDF. Even though today we are focusing on Word, any software that can create a PDF will work. If you do have questions about using other software, feel free to contact our support team at lulu.com/support. So let's meet the team. So I am Lolly Zamowski. I am the social media manager.
My name is Paul Hobday. I'm the senior copywriter.
I'm Chelsea Bennett. I am the marketing communications specialist.
I am Graham Williams, and I'm the email marketing manager.
And I'm Lauren Vasallo. I'm the marketing associate.
Awesome. So for those of you who don't know us, we are Lulu Press. We are a self-publishing and print-on-demand platform. We were founded by authorpreneur Bob Young, who also founded Red Hat, if you don't know. We are located in Durham, North Carolina. We are a small but mighty team. And we are also a B Corporation. So we are committed to making the world better, one book at a time. So now I will pass it over to Chelsea to really dive into the good stuff. Thanks.
No, not yet. Paul is gonna get into the really good stuff. I'm gonna kick it off with some precursor good stuff. Okay, cool. So as you guys know at this point, this webinar is about formatting, but writing is not formatting, so it's pretty obvious. But we did want to start off to note that writing does not equal formatting. So we're gonna